Hey everyone, so today we are going to be doing a dream interpretation for crypto.com. But before we start, let's say a word of prayer. Yehovah, we just want to invite your presence, your spirit, your Ruach HaKodesh to be here with us today. Your word says that when 2 or 3 are gathered together in Yeshua's name, there will you also be. And so we bind, cast, and rebuke any spirit that is not of you. Let your words be established in the heart and overflow into the lives of your people, your children. We ask, Lord, for greater discernment, revelation, and knowledge when it comes to the things of the Spirit. For we know in part and we prophesy in part. Your word says, it is the glory of God to conceal a matter, to search out a matter is the glory of kings. Papa, we desire to search out the deep things. We want to know your ways, for we desire to know the secret things. You said that if we, being sinful by nature, know how to give good gifts to our children, how much more will our Heavenly Father give the Holy Spirit to those who ask and continue to ask Him? We ask, Lord, for an increase in dreams, visions, wisdom, and discernment. We desire the things of the Spirit. Papa, I know it is your desire to give us the Ruach. Lord, I know that you're just merely waiting for us to come to desire the things of the Spirit. And so we thank you for giving us the Holy Spirit. In Yeshua's name we pray. Amen. Okay, guys, so today we're going to be talking about the dream that MyKingYeshua had. The video is actually titled Crypto.com No Access, Flooding in California, Los Angeles. It was a dream that Sister Kim had on December 2021, and she posted the video on March 10th of 2023. And so I will link the video down below. I have a list of bullet points for this dream interpretation. So the video itself is really short. I just made a quick bullet point list of 10 points that are in her dream, and we're just going to go over that and cross through the list as we go through each of the elements and what the Lord's been showing me. And so it's a dream on December 2021. And in the dream, it starts off with, so there's 10 points, but it starts off with Sister Kim having tickets to the Los Angeles Lakers basketball game at the Staples Center. They end up renting a yellow Hummer, and on their way to the stadium or to the game, they stopped at a service station to fuel up. The stadium is surrounded by water, and there are massive grotesque sea creatures in the water. There's a small sandy path that allows access to the stadium. Her father is driving on the small sandy road. There is nowhere to park, and so her brother drives the yellow Hummer around to the back to find parking. Once they find parking, the family leaves the vehicle and walks towards the stadium, but no one is allowed in. What I want to do is just show you that I believe that all the elements of the dream are actually connected to each other. The small sandy path is connected to the vehicle, and both of those elements are actually speaking about the times that we're in, and then the vehicle is connected to the stadium, and the stadium is speaking a lot about the risk. Going back to this list, let's focus on points 2 and 3, which is they rented a yellow Hummer and they stopped at a service station to fuel. On Auto Week, there is this article that was published in 2020, and it speaks a little bit about the history of the Hummer, which is important to go over. On slide number 8, it says, the civilian version. Arnold Schwarzenegger played a key role in the emergence of demand for privately owned Humvees. Now on slide 17, it says, an icon of an era, the gas crisis in the mid-2000s and 2008 economic crash hurt the popularity of the H2 and H3s, and they became to be seen as a caricature of an era of excess and cheap oil. H2 sales had slowed down to a trickle by 2009. Which was the last year of production. And on this final slide, it says end of the line. The H2 production ended in 2009, while the last H3 rolled out of the factories in 2010. I also have this Vox article pulled up, and it says the rise and fall of the Hummer, and it kind of just goes through the history of the Humvee, or the Hummer, the civilian version. But here you're going to see a picture of Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it says that he arrives at a movie premiere in the year 2000 in a Hummer. And in the photograph, what you're seeing is a yellow H1 Hummer. I believe that's the first gen. And if you go further down into the article, here is Arnold Schwarzenegger still drives his Hummer in 2019. So that was just 4 years ago. Some of the key takeaways from this is that the Hummer was popularized for being ostentatious. It is notorious for gas guzzling and criticized for it. Seen as a flex of wealth, requiring a lot of money to buy one and also drive one due to its gas consumption. It's the epitome of luxury and wealth despite its military design. So the Hummer was popularized through the use of celebrities, namely Arnold Schwarzenegger. And it was unable to overcome the 2008 economic recession. So essentially, the Hummer died due to an economic crash. What's really interesting is that as of last year, the Hummer is actually trying to make a comeback with an electric vehicle. They want to shed their reputation as a gas guzzler. And so in 2022, GMC called upon the Los Angeles Lakers' LeBron James, who's considered the most valuable player in basketball for any of you who's not familiar with basketball, but they called on him to showcase the new EV Hummer. So I just want you guys to note the repeating elements of celebrity endorsements when it comes to the Hummer. Here's an article that I found on Auto Revolution. It says, LeBron James shows off his very own 2022 GMC Hummer EV truck. And this is an article from May of 2022. And if you remember on point number 1, they had a ticket to the Los Angeles Lakers basketball game at the Staples Center. So here's a picture of LeBron James, and his number is actually 6. GMC gave him an EV vehicle with the license plate numbers 6 on that article. In Kim's original video, she posted this image of the yellow Hummer that she saw in her dream. But this yellow Hummer is associated with an article on GM Authority. The headline says, Custom Yellow GMC Hummer EV Spotted in New York City. And so what we know from this article, and it was an article posted in September of 2022, but what we know from this article is that the Hummer that you see is an electric vehicle. It is the EV Hummer. The color is actually a custom job. So further down in the article, if you take a look, it says here, notably, the 2023 GMC Hummer EV pickup is offered with a total of 8 paint options, none of which are yellow. And so if you go to the GMC website for the 2023 EV Hummers, you'll see that there are 2 vehicles. And here's a video of the EV Hummer, and this is their pickup truck. And so I believe that GMC is trying to compete with Tesla and a lot of the new EV vehicles that are coming out. They have been going with this theme of lunar space exploration colors. So something to evoke the future. And I think it's because of Tesla and SpaceX and what they're doing in trying to usher mankind to the future. And so they've been picking color combinations of that palette. Now, I want to show you the original gas Hummers. Now, this is the Hummer H1, which is available off of the factory floor model, available in yellow. This is the H2 that was available in yellow as well. And this is the H3 that was available in yellow. And the very first H1s were very military and square and boxy in their design language. And as it goes on to the H3, it becomes a lot more rounded and more suited towards civilians. So some key takeaways from this to overview everything that we've gone over is that the original H1, 2, and 3 gas Hummers were all available in the iconic yellow color from the factory. The new EV Hummers have 8 color options from the factory, none of which are yellow. Now, if you remember the previous points that we went through, the Hummer was popularized through the use of celebrities, and that was Arnold Schwarzenegger. These were for the gas Hummers. And if we go back to the slide for the EV Hummers, we know that they've actually called on the Los Angeles Lakers, LeBron James, to showcase the new vehicle. So there is this repeating element and theme of celebrity endorsements. And here's a picture of LeBron James, and he's wearing his Lakers shirt, number 6. But also the color for the Los Angeles Laker is yellow. So you also have that repeating theme of yellow. So going back, in Kim's dream, there's a yellow Hummer which they stopped to fuel. Both the color of the Hummer and the gasoline and the fact that they fueled it is reiterating that the dream is talking about the gasoline version of the Hummer. And we know that they went out of business because of the 2008 economic crash. Both the color of the vehicle and the fueling is speaking of the economic times that we're in. And so you're seeing this repeating element in her dream that is based on repeating elements in history. Those are points 2 and 3 on her dream, and we're just going to cross that off and move on to point number 6, which is the small sandy path that allowed access to the stadium. And so while I was doing a little bit of research on this, I found this article on Reddit. It says Project Sandman describes a 100+ nation agreement that, when triggered, will see those nations simultaneously dump the dollar and abandon the petrodollar. When this decision is triggered, the dollar and all dollar-denominated assets will plunge to nearly zero overnight. This Redditor had a screenshot of this article. I was actually not able to find the original Miami Standard article which spoke about this, but I was able to read through the comments and find out that this was actually based on something that Steve Quayle has been speaking about for over a decade. And so I was able to find this video. It's a podcast from March 10th of 2022 on the Hagman Report where they talk about this. And so it's like a 6-minute video, and I'm going to go ahead and pause my mic and play this video for you guys.
Well, Operation Sandman and the death of the U.S. dollar. This is something, folks, you better please pay attention to very carefully. Steve Quayle specifically has been warning about this for at least a decade, myself as well on this platform. But this is about
the history of the oil importation and the oil development, exploration, refining. All that is based on what was set up as the American dollar. We were able, as a nation and a country, to pretty much generate an infinite amount of dollars to buy all the natural resources of anybody that would sell us whatever, oil, minerals, you name it, strategic minerals, fertilizer, whatever we would buy, they would accept US dollars. But as you've watched, ladies and gentlemen, the dollar has just gone kaput. We're down to, a nickel's worth of purchasing power, and we're going to even be in a tougher shape than that, or in tougher shape than that. That with the American dollar being repudiated, that means simply nobody wants it, nobody will take it. Under Operation Sandman, which is a treaty, I understand, I have not seen it. So, Doug, this is a perfect storm, and I want to make it simple. There are 3 things I want people to make, and so this is to make clear in their minds. The dollar is finished as an oil trading platform. Number 2, the dollar is finished as a global world reserve currency. Maybe people should get the idea. Finished? They wanted stuff for all of the paper money. And now the world is repudiating that paper money behind the scenes. Doug, for the first time in history, Saudi Arabia, that I know of, and as it was told to me by somebody who knows this, and by the Emirates, United Arab Emirates, by the Qataris, or Qatar, some people pronounce it. Even I'm told the president of the Philippines will not take calls from President Biden. The whole world is calling America's debt due. We've been checkmated. Where does the United States, Doug, go to get oil if no one will accept our dollar? So back to Operation Sandman. Sandman, obviously. But anybody who is a member of OPEC is already on board. The day will come when they will not accept the dollar. The question is it this weekend? Because I don't know how long it will take to filter through, meaning that the United States dollar is no longer worthwhile. But I can tell you this, if there are meetings all through the night, as there have been with the Federal Reserve, remember, they loan the United States the money, and the United States, they're not federal anything, it's private bankers. What happens when the bankers say, no more credit, no more issue, no more dollar? The rich and poor will meet in the same line of no food, unless you're the elite, okay? If this event happens, and this is a question I can't answer, will it be all at once or will it build? It's already been determined that the United States dollar will be taken out of the world reserve currency. It's already been determined by Brazil, Russia, India, China, Iran. When the American dollar crashes, they'll come up with the idea, gee, we'll come up with a digital dollar. But why would anybody accept a digital dollar if the American dollar, which says on it, this note is, what does it say? Is legal tender for all debts, public and private. Okay? If this is no good, then what makes a digital dollar any better? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
so
I wondered that.
By switching out the focus or the object of destruction with another object that has the same underlying basis for destruction, nobody's going to buy off on that. No one's going to buy off on it. So the idea is this, that what very little exists, ladies and gentlemen, take this to heart. Tomorrow, after you've heard this podcast, please ask yourself, am I willing to risk it with so much at stake? We are in the point where you have to act. And again, we need to hit our knees, before the stuff hits the fan.
In the short term, is the dollar finished as the oil trading platform, shall we say? Is that finished?
Yes.
Is the dollar finished as a global reserve currency?
Yes. Well, maybe it's all propaganda. Well, if it's all propaganda, Doug, I think people need to understand this. If you've got the key leading oil producing and exporting nations saying we will not talk to the President of the United States, when you've got people that we used to call allies, and they called us allies, when we had our nuclear umbrella, they were on our side. When they watched what Biden did in Afghanistan, that wasn't the shot heard around the world. That was the assassination of I'm going to make this statement. Well, how can you say that? Because I know. The assassination of every ally that America had worked so hard to develop.
Steve, I believe this was perhaps one of the best, if not the best, time we spent together, the most pointed and important messages that you've ever delivered, and I want to thank you.
On Investopedia, there is this little article that explains what the petrodollar is, and I want to read that for you. What are petrodollars? Petrodollars are crude oil export revenues denominated in US dollars. The term gained its currency in the mid-1970s when soaring oil prices generated large trade and current account surpluses for oil exporting countries. The US dollar's global popularity does not depend on the goodwill of oil exporters. It is based on U.S. status as the world's largest economy and goods importer, with deep liquid capital markets backed by the rule of law as well as military power. Project Sandman. So this is just an overview, but it says that Project Sandman is a secret mission which is purported to end the U.S. petrodollar. The world would de-dollarize in one day, and the U.S. would lose its world reserve currency status. Both the yellow gas Hummer in Kim's dream, plus the sandy path, I believe, speaks about the economic times we're traveling. And so it also speaks about the US petrodollar and how the US world reserve currency status is held up by, and if you remember the Investopedia article, military power. The Hummer is a civilian version of the Humvee, which is a military vehicle. So you see these repeating themes. As I was making this presentation, the Lord put it on my heart to read this verse from Matthew's chapter 7, 24 to 27. So everyone who hears these words of mine and acts on them will be like a wise man, a far-sighted, practical, and sensible man, who built his house on the rock, and the rain fell, and the floods and torrents came, and the wind blew and slammed against that house. Yet it did not fall, because it had been founded on the rock. And everyone who hears these words of mine and does not do them will be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. And the rain fell, and the floods and torrents came, and the winds blew and slammed against that house, and it fell, and great and complete was its fall. I think that the US petrodollar, that small sandy path, it might be speaking about the US losing its world reserve currency status in regards to the current economic conditions that we're traveling in. So that was point number 6, the sandy path that allowed access to the crypto stadium. We're going to cross that off the list, and we're going to go to points 1, 4, and 5. Points number 1, the tickets that they had to the Los Angeles Lakers game at the Staples Stadium, which is now called the Crypto.com Arena. I found this article on the Los Angeles Times. It says, "Goodbye Staples Center, hello Crypto.com Arena." Now, if we go down, it shows you this photo of it's a rendering of the Staples Center after the completion of the rebranding as Crypto.com Arena. And it states that Crypto.com paid more than $700 million for the naming rights, according to sources familiar with the term, making it one of the biggest naming deals in sports history. Here's another article on CNBC. It says Crypto.com buys naming rights to the Lakers Staples Center in a $700 million deal. Crypto.com also purchased a Super Bowl ad, and if we have international listeners, if you guys don't know what a Super Bowl is, it's basically this huge event that happens, I think it's like every 4 years. I might be wrong on that, but it's basically this huge American football. It's kind of like the Olympics, except it's just for the United States and just for American football. Usually when this event happens, it's a big deal, and a lot of corporations and businesses like to do really interesting and cool advertisements for their product or for their business during this time. But one of the big things to note is that it is very expensive to buy a ad spot or a marketing spot within the Super Bowl for those time slots. It's very expensive to do so. But here is Crypto.com's Super Bowl ad from 2021.
History is filled with almosts, with those who almost adventured, who almost achieved, but ultimately, for them it proved to be too much. Then there are others, the ones who embrace the moment and commit. And in these moments of truth, these men and women, these mere mortals, just like you and me, as they peer over the edge, they calm their minds and steel their nerves with 4 simple words that have been whispered by the intrepid since the time of the Romans. Fortune favors the brave.
We already know that to do a Super Bowl ad spot, it is really expensive to do so. There was an article posted about 8 months later that says Matt Damon is once again being dragged for that Super Bowl ad after crypto prices plummet and job losses soar. And I believe for 2022, we had a crypto winter, and so a lot of people did lose money throughout 2022. What I think is so interesting is you have Matt Damon, and he's a big star. He's an A-list celebrity. He's not a B, C, or D-list celebrity. Matt Damon carries a huge name. And so I was not able to find out how much Crypto.com paid Matt Damon to do this ad. There were several things that happened afterwards, which was I found a video of CoffeeZilla. This was posted on May 5th of 2022, and he kind of speaks about what happened with the Super Bowl ad with Matt Damon in regards to kind of the fallout afterwards. I'm gonna play this video for you.
6 months ago, Matt Damon told us all that fortune favors the brave in a commercial that appeared to be about sailing, flying, and rocket ships, but was actually about a crypto exchange. And this was the beginning of a major spending spree for the crypto exchange called Crypto.com. They were going to do things differently. While other people bribed celebrities like Jimmy Fallon with pictures of apes, Crypto.com was going to be smart and judicious about their spending, which is why they spent $100 million on this ad comparing going to Mars with buying crypto. And they followed it up by buying the naming rights to the Staples Center for $700 million. Now, I know what you're thinking. $800 million, that's a lot of money to spend just on ads. But fear not, they have a great revenue business plan. They're going to make money on trading fees and also on people investing in their coin called Kronos or Crow. But of course, getting people to go to your website is one thing, and getting them to invest in your token is quite another. So to make this happen, Crypto.com hatched a plan. They were going to give an insane offer, a debit card which gave you 8% cash back on all purchases. They would pay for your Netflix account, they'd pay for your Spotify subscription, Amazon Prime. They would even put you in a private jet partnership if you bought a lot of their crypto and promised not to sell it by locking it up, also known as staking. The more you staked, the more you earned with their tiered system. They had several cards on offering, the top one being the Obsidian card. They advertised it gave you 8% back on all purchases instantly. All you have to do to get it is invest $400,000 into the Crypto.com token and stake it for like 6 months or something. Now, but if this is starting to sound like a Ponzi scheme, locking outrageous sums of money into a system to get outrageous returns, we haven't even gotten to the best part. All of this stuff, all you have to do to get all of it is be brave like Matt Damon says and give them $400,000 for a while. So that's the plan in a nutshell. What could possibly go wrong? Crypto.com slumps 30% as staking rewards are slashed. Crypto.com, soon after assembling everyone in their website for this flagship marketing campaign, kind of was like, we're actually not going to do that because it's unsustainable in their words, because, you know, all these crypto arenas they have to buy, they don't exactly have the money for it. Now, understandably, their investors who staked incredible amounts of money into their Crow coin were completely pissed off about this, because not only is their card in most cases nearly worthless, also the price of their Crow, which is locked up and they can't sell, began to plummet right after this news was announced. Wow. So basically, people lost money on their staked money while also having the ability to get cash back slashed. But the people in charge of Crypto.com clearly felt like they were between a rock and a hard place. On the one hand, they had promised unsustainable things and spent their money on advertising. On the other hand, they might go bankrupt because the price of their token is going to zero. And here we have Crypto.com spending millions on advertising, now haggling with us on the rates. So if we didn't make noise, you would have just sliced us and diced us? The answer to that, of course, is yes. Definitely yes. And the worst part of all of this is that even after wrecking people on this sort of bait and switch deal, Crypto.com is still advertising their 8% cashback rates even now. And so what's the lesson here? Well, as kind of trite as it sounds, the real lesson is that if it sounds too good to be true, Matt Damon will promote it anyways. And by the way, Crypto.com CEO Chris, that guy, you should probably know, before starting this crypto exchange, he left his last job, quote, amid accusations from customers and business partners that they had been ripped off. But if that's not bad enough, check this out. One business owner, quote, claimed Chris's platform had issued promotions to boost its revenue just before shutting down. Deals that were then left worthless. So, I don't know. Maybe you should add that in your commercial next time.
What does Matt Damon say on that Bitcoin commercial? Fortune favors the brave! My dad said he listened to Matt Damon and lost all his money. Yes, everyone did! But they were brave in doing so!
Adam, Crypto.com, this is one I don't like. And I've said it many times is, we used to love Crypto.com. And the signs that we showed on Crypto.com, let me go over to a YouTube, because we had this right here. This was back, when was this? 4 months ago. Crypto.com limiting withdrawals after layoffs. And that wasn't even the beginning of it. So we've reported on this before with Crypto.com. It was really the issue of them starting to change all the rules on yields, changing the rules on deposits and withdrawals, changing the rules on how you were able to use the debit cards and credit card aspects. All of that started to indicate to me problems of where it was going. So we kind of play away and stay away from those.
Okay, so those two videos, I do have links to the full video below. I kind of want to segue or do a sidetrack of the topic and speak a little bit about FTX, the crypto exchange that went bankrupt in November of 2022 last year. And I want to do that because I want to draw some similarities and show you what I see as a repeating theme that's happening. And so we're just going to cover the Super Bowl ads, the celebrity endorsements, the stadium naming rights, and the lawsuits. If you remember going back to the Crypto.com
who almost
Super Bowl
adventured,
ad with Matt Damon,
who almost achieved.
That ad, I found this information about Matt Damon on IMDb. And out of the top 500, if you look on the right corner, right up here, it says the star meter, top 500, he's number 48. Matt Damon is an actor, but I would say he's an A-list celebrity actor. On the next slide, I'm going to show you drawing parallels again to the Super Bowl ads. I want to show you FTX's Super Bowl ad. Crypto.com was in October of 2021. This was a few months later in February of 2021. And this is a 2-minute ad by FTX. Now, FTX is the exchange that went out of business. But I want you to see that both FTX and Crypto.com, they have both placed very expensive ads with celebrities at the Super Bowl.
I call it the wheel.
I don't think so.
What does it do? It rolls.
Yeah, so does a bagel, okay? A bagel you can eat.
One of the worst ideas I've ever heard.
Brother David, behold, the fork.
I got 10 forks right here, baby! Am I right?
My lord? What is it? A toilet, my lord.
A toilet? You expect this court to do its business inside? We're not animals. We go outside like humans.
It's coffee. It's new.
Oh, it's awful.
You don't like it?
I'm all jittery and feel like I got a big job coming on.
Hancock, you sign first.
No king! Gentlemen, have you taken leave of your senses?
The people shall have the right to vote.
Even the stupid ones?
Yes.
Stupid people vote?
Yes.
Edison, can I be honest with you? It stinks. Does your wife know what's going on here?
She knows I go to work.
You're wasting your time, and it's sad. You might as well put the dishes in the shower.
Hey, Catherine, what's cooking? We're putting a man on the moon. Are you out of your mind? I can't even get tuna without celery. Nobody's gone to the moon, ever.
Why not?
It's too far. It's far. It's really far. It's far.
我々の未来はポータブルミュージックです。
バカか、バカか、わかるだろう、わかるだろう、わかるだろう。
Get in here!
Like I was saying, it's FTX. It's a safe and easy way to get into crypto.
Yeah, I don't think so. And I'm never wrong about this stuff. Never. Franklin! Hey, I left my cane in there. What? What do you mean? Hey, that's an expensive cane!
Now, I looked up Larry David on IMDb, and out of the top 5,000, he is on the star meter, number 275. So Larry David is a comedian, writer, actor, director, and television producer, and he's best known for creating the sitcom Seinfeld. Now, if we go back to that list, right, we see that both of these exchanges created a Super Bowl ad, and both of them are heavily using celebrity endorsements. So we're going to cross that off the list. And now I want to go to stadium naming rights. On Markets Insider, on this article, it says Sam Bankman-Fried, now this is about FTX, but FTX buys a Super Bowl ad as the crypto exchange amplifies its presence in sports. If we scroll down, it says, earlier this year, the crypto exchange, talking about FTX, signed a $135 million deal for the naming rights on the Miami Heat's stadium, which is now called the FTX Arena. If you guys remember, there was a Los Angeles Times article about the Staples Center in regards to Crypto.com, where if you scroll down on the article, it says that Crypto.com paid more than $700 million for the naming rights, right? And so here we have FTX buying the naming rights to the Miami Heat's stadium for $135 million, which is significantly less, right? And we're talking about a crypto exchange that went out of business and that went bankrupt, and it has several lawsuits against them, right? They only paid $135 million, whereas Crypto.com paid $700 million. Going back to this list, we're just going to cross that off. Now, I just want to focus in on the FTX lawsuits. On NBC News, it says Tom Brady, Larry David, who was the guy on FTX's Super Bowl ad, and other celebrities named in the FTX lawsuit. If we scroll down, it says a class action lawsuit filed Tuesday alleges that the crypto platform FTX and former CEO Sam Bankman-Fried violated Florida law, misled customers, and cost investors billions of dollars in damages. The lawsuit also names some of the athletes and celebrities that promoted the platform, including Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback Tom Brady and supermodel Gisele Bündchen, his ex-wife, Golden State Warriors guard Stephen Curry, who's a basketball player, and businessman Kevin O'Leary. The lawsuit alleges that U.S. customers sustained $11 billion in damages and accused the exchange of targeting unsophisticated investigators from across the country. Here we have another headline. It says Kevin O'Leary reveals FTX paid him $15 million to become a spokesperson for the exchange. So here we have a Yahoo Finance article that says finance YouTubers who promoted FTX have now been handed a $1 billion lawsuit. And if we scroll down to the article, we'll see that it says a handful of YouTubers famed for their personal finance expertise are being chased hard for more than $1 billion by victims who lost their fortunes in Sam Bankman-Fried's FTX. The finance influencers are facing a class action lawsuit claiming they were paid handsomely to push FTX brand prior to its collapse, following similar cases brought against celebrity endorsers like Tom Brady, Madonna, and Gwyneth Paltrow. Now, if you go to YouTube and just type in $1 billion lawsuit FTX, you will see all of these videos about YouTubers who are being sued for promoting this exchange as it went bankrupt and took billions of dollars in customer money. That covers the lawsuits for FTX. Now, what I want you guys to focus on is the similarities that we're seeing between Crypto.com and FTX. So we know that FTX collapsed from November of 2022. Initially, they were locking users out, and then eventually they claimed bankruptcy on November the 11th. FTX also paid several celebrities YouTubers and politicians to endorse the exchange. And in particular, the politicians were paid to basically turn a blind eye to what was happening inside of that crypto exchange, bypassing many of the laws and the rules and the regulations that other crypto exchanges were bound by. FTX also created a Super Bowl ad with the actor and comedian producer Larry David, and they also spent $135 million to buy naming rights to the Miami Heat's stadium. For Crypto.com, they locked out users on November of 2022 due to the FTX collapse contagion. They also spent $100 million in a global marketing campaign, including a Super Bowl ad with the actor Matt Damon. They've also spent over $700 million in naming rights to the Staples Stadium, which is now called the Crypto.com Arena. The key takeaway from this is that most crypto exchanges do not use celebrity endorsements or have large marketing budgets. So we know that FTX filed for bankruptcy on November 11th of 2022, and there are just so many eerie similarities between the way Crypto.com is operating compared to FTX. Now, the original gas Hummers heavily use celebrity endorsements, but it did not survive the 2008 economic collapse. So we're just seeing these repeated themes of celebrity endorsements, and in particular, the gas Hummer in Kim's dream was historically, it's unable to survive the 2008 recession. Going back to the dream, let's cross off number 1 from the list since we've addressed that. And moving on to points 4 and 5. First, let's focus on the grotesque sea creatures in number 5. I did a little bit of research on this in the Bible to see if there's anything about sea creatures, but I did find a verse in Judges chapter 15, verses 23. It says, "Now the Philistine lords gathered together to offer a great sacrifice to Dagon, their god, and to celebrate, for they said, 'Our God has given Samson, our enemy, into our hands.'" In the Britannica, Dagon is spelled 2 different ways with an A and an O, but it was a West Semitic god of crop fertility, worshipped extensively throughout the ancient Middle East. If you go to Wikipedia and scroll down to the character portion, it states that one of Dagon's best documented functions was guaranteeing abundant harvest of grain. However, he was not an agricultural god, but rather a source of prosperity in general. And I found some images of Dagon. He is actually a half man, half fish Philistine god. And you'll see on the bottom left-hand corner, that's his image, but in the center is actually how his worshippers or the priests would dress. And they would wear this like fish costume, I guess, this fish garb where the head of the fish is the hat and the cape is its body. So think Batman, but not Batman. So like Batman, but Fishman. I have this 12-minute long clip from a 1 hour and 30-minute-ish podcast of Amanda Grace, and her ministry is called arcofgraceministries.com, and she is what I would say holds the office of a prophet for the United States. She has dreams, visions, words of knowledge, and is well versed in this area of spiritual warfare. She has more experience with marine spirits and things of that nature in dreams and visions. Personally, I've never really had prophetic dreams about marine kingdom spirits or anything like that. So this is really outside of my knowledge and my wheelhouse. But I really think this video clip is going to explain a lot about someone who is in the prophetic and who sees in the spirit that has experience with these types of spirits. And so I just want to play that video for you. It's a 12-minute long clip, so just sit back and relax. But this was a video that was uploaded very recently. It was on May 5th of 2023.
This was the dream. There was a building with a large gathering of people in it. The lights were darkened, so it was a little dark in there. Thousands of people were there in the seats. There was a stage. Now, there was light shining on the stage. There's an area kind of off stage, and now Tucker Carlson enters. White shirt, darker blazer, and jeans. He looked upset. he looked perplexed. He just looked like something had happened. He went to approach a small group of individuals that were more towards the corner and left of me and shadowed, so I could not see who they were. So I wasn't allowed to see who these individuals were he was approaching. Tucker then turns his back to me and stretches like this. He stretches, which lifts up his shirt and jacket. He had a very large mermaid tattooed and wrapped around the entire trunk of his body. Many times, mermaids signify seducing spirits. They signify going back to the Philistines with Dagon, which we're going to get into, half man, half fish, and they come as seducing spirits. So in the dream, that was trying to wrap around him and take him down, basically, is what was going on. There was a battle ensuing in the spiritual realm to attempt to wrap around him, which is what they do. They allure, and then they try to wrap around that individual, and then they try to take them down. So there was an assignment that had gone forth from the kingdom of darkness to attempt to take him down, because I think he was waking up to the fact more and more that this is a spiritual war, and he was waking up more, and the Lord was beginning to wake him up to deeper spiritual things in national matters, we'll say. And because he was speaking a lot of truth. One thing they hate, seducing spirits, is when you speak truth, because there are people that are targeted and marked right now by these seducing spirits because they're beginning to go deeper with the Lord in an area they never wanted them to, and B, because they're speaking truth. So I think this is a similar dream in a different context to the Tucker Carlson dream. So I also think this represents a seducing spirit that is trying to get near him. Now we're going to go into what seducing spirits are, because they don't always have to do with a sexual nature, although they do sometimes, but that's not always the case. Seducing spirits, seducing the people of God. Now, to seduce doesn't always mean it has to do with a sort of illicit nature. It means alluring to put in bondage and destroy. That's what seduce means. So people can be seduced by alcohol. People can be seduced by money. People can be seduced by drugs. So it doesn't have to always do with this illicit nature that we see in Hollywood films, although that does happen, and that is present and that is there. We see it with this is a part 2 of what I did with Samson and Delilah when I started talking and warning about this, and I connected it to Samson and Delilah. That had an illicit nature to it. So that does happen also, but it is not totally subject to that when talking about seducing spirits. Galatians 3 verse 1 says, "O foolish Galatians, who has bewitched you?" That's what they want to do. They want to bewitch you. They want to allure you, bewitch you, deceive you, put you in bondage, and destroy you. Here, seducing spirits, we have seen more and more, are on the rise. The image is being portrayed all over now. It is being flooded in the media, on TV, in commercials, images everywhere. This is a full-on blitz. It is the rise of the Dagon faction. Dagon, the chief false god of the Philistines, half man, half fish, mermaid, if you will. Part of the marine kingdom in the kingdom of darkness. There is the powers of the air division and the marine kingdom division. Creatures that are highly advanced technologically in the marine kingdom. They are highly technologically advanced, also in warfare. Many who have seen them, who have been delivered from them, have described them even as being covered, and I mean covered, in tattoos to identify who they serve, which I find that very interesting. Now, they allure to destroy. They allure to encompass, to constrict, and to ultimately take that person down after they are done using them for their means. They want willing human hosts to do their bidding. The push into the earthly realm their agendas. So when they want these willing hosts, because what they plot in the realm of the spirit, they then have to push into the earthly realm. And they do this through willing human hosts. Now, in the middle of all of this, we have the Met Gala, which is just so moral in its standing, which it's not. It's one of the most hideous things I've ever seen. So you have the Met Gala. Now, I'm going to show you this quickly because my stomach turned. But Little Nas X, who is so lost and in bondage to the kingdom of darkness, it's not even funny, and this faction of the kingdom of darkness, shows up looking like one of these creatures. And we're going to show the image. He shows up, there he is, looking like one of these creatures. Do not tell me they are not doing a full court press in this hour, because they are. Now, I'm going to tell you something very interesting about this. I have seen these demons with silver skin before. I've actually seen them in visions. They have silver skin. Sometimes they have white hair. The one I saw had fiery eyes. It had a black cloak and a staff. So they do exist. These silvery skinned, demonic, disgusting entities, they do exist in the realm of the spirit. First Samuel chapter 5. We're going to bring this back to the word with Dagon now. This is what it says. First Samuel chapter 5. Now the Philistines took the ark of God and brought it from Ebenezer to Ashdod. Then the Philistines, because they had captured the ark of God in battle. So basically, Israel was not in right standing with God. They go and get the ark thinking that's going to make them win the battle. The Philistines end up capturing the ark of God, which was a no-no in the eyes of God, but they capture it. So then the Philistines took the ark of God and brought it to the house of Dagon and set it by Dagon. When the Ashdodites arose early the next morning, behold, Dagon had fallen on his face to the ground before the ark of the Lord. Now, when they tried to take the covenant of God and put it before this half man, half fish, false god, hybrid, that was part of a faction of the kingdom of darkness, what happened? The power of God resting on the Ark of the Covenant was so strong that it threw Dagon on his face. It brought judgment on Dagon in the realm of the spirit. It brought judgment on the people who served him. You know why? Because you had God's covenant, and God wants his covenant back. They are trying to make a full court press to completely steal and take the covenant of this nation. And seducing spirits, when they hunt, and they do hunt, they do look for prey. They are hunters by nature. They are out for blood. And so what happens is they've made this full court press in this hour with all of these things happening at once, but they're all connected. This is a time where they're going to try to cause such chaos because some of their biggest hosts that they have been using are going to get torn down in the process. So in the process of them trying to take people down, speaking truth, launching assignments against them, coming after them, some of their biggest hosts and trophies that they have been using are going to come down. Now, seducing spirits love to talk. They love to send out into the airwaves their coiling confusions, doctrines of devils, false information, lies, destroying the reputation. That's one thing they love to do. They love to try to destroy and dismantle somebody's reputation. This is why the difference between Samson and Paul, and I'm going to end with this, when the seducing spirits through Delilah worked on Samson to destroy him, it's because Samson, we have to understand, was strong physically because of the Lord. He was weak spiritually. Very weak spiritually. And when Samson wearied because he wasn't anchored spiritually, he gave in. And that was to his destruction. Paul in Acts 16 was followed by that girl who made much money for her masters, right? Operating in familiar spirits, saying, these are the servants of the Most High God, right? Now, right words, wrong breath. Kim Clement used to say that. The words may be right, but the breath may be wrong. Right words, wrong breath. Seducing spirit, looking to weary Paul till he gave in. But in Acts 16, it says, when Paul wearied, Paul was anchored, Samson wasn't. He turned around, he rebuked the spirit and commanded it to come out in the name of Jesus Christ. And it did. And it caused an uproar in the city because she couldn't make any money for her masters anymore. Paul basically bankrupted them in a day, is what happened. He bankrupted an entire entity at that time in a day by doing that, because Paul was anchored in the word. He was anchored in the Lord. And when he wearied, he knew to turn and rebuke it and cast it out. When Samson wearied, he gave in and gave that spirit through its host the information it wanted to destroy it. Remember those two images in your mind going forward. You are going to need it. So pray about this. Test the spirit. Be anchored in the word during this time. Be quick to rebuke it. Be quick when the attack tries to come, when it tries to come, to rebuke it in the name of Jesus. We have been given the power to trample upon serpents and scorpions, against all the power of the enemy, so nothing shall by any means harm us. We have the authority of the believer. The power that raised Christ from the dead dwells within us, and we need to use it. The last thing they want is for us to use it. We need to use it. We need to utilize it, and we need to activate the word. Jesus activated the word. When he spoke, he activated the word.
I have, for all the videos that I'm sharing, other than the Super Bowl ads, I'll have a link to the full video in the description box below. That was for the Grotesque Sea Creatures. But for point 4 and 5, in regards to the sea creature and water, just for an overview, right? According to Wiki, we knew that Dagon, the Philistines' god, is a merman, half man, half fish, and he was supposed to be the god of guaranteeing abundant harvest of grain. Not an agricultural god, but a source of prosperity in general. And according to Amanda Grace, who has the office of a prophet over the United States and has a lot more experience in regards to spiritual matter, she says that marine spirits are seducing spirits. And so this is where I kind of see the connection, but that celebrity advertisements and endorsements are seducing spirits. And so what I believe in Kim's dream with the stadium being surrounded by water, with these grotesque sea creatures in the actual water, is that I believe that these sea creatures are seducing spirits. And what they're trying to do is seduce people to come into the stadium or to come into crypto.com and to use the exchange. But in actuality, I don't know that the exchange is liquid. And so the water surrounding the stadium, I believe, is seemingly liquid, or in other words, with the creatures in them, I think it says dangerous waters. Going back to the list of bullet points on Kim's dream, we're going to cover 8 through 10. We know that initially there was nowhere to park, and then her brother takes the vehicle, goes around to the back of the stadium to find parking. And once they do, the family leaves the vehicle, walks towards the stadium, but no one is allowed in. So what I think the last portion of the dream means is twice and then no more. So as they were looking for parking twice, they were ultimately turned away. We know that during the FTX collapse in November of 2022, the Crypto.com exchange also locked users out of their accounts due to a liquidity contagion. Eventually, Crypto.com did let users back in, and it's still open and you're still able to go on and log in today. I believe with the upcoming economic turmoil, their balance and books will unravel, locking people out again, this time for good. So we'll cross this off of our list. As an overview, all of the elements in Kim's dream are actually connected. The small sandy path, or as I'd like to think about it, Project Sandman, in regards to the US dollar or the US fiat currency, the world reserve currency that is upheld by the petrodollar, which uses military power, and the civilian Humvee, which is a military vehicle. The yellow Hummer was a gas Hummer that went out of business during the 2008 economic collapse, but it was also a Hummer that uses celebrity endorsements, not just the first gas versions of it, but also the upcoming electric version of the Hummer is also using celebrity endorsements. And we know that Crypto.com uses a lot of celebrity endorsements and has a large marketing budget to entice users to come on the exchange and use them. It was, I believe, an $800 million naming rights plus marketing campaign for everything. What I want to leave you guys with is this question: where are they getting all this money? I just want you to think about that. Where are they getting all this money? 1 Kings chapter 4, verse 29 says, "Now God gave Solomon exceptional wisdom and very great discernment, and breadth of mind like the sand of the seashore." James chapter 1, verse 5 says, "If any of you lacks wisdom to guide him through a decision or circumstance, he is to ask of our benevolent God, who gives everyone generously and without rebuke or blame, and it will be given to him." Every time I read the Bible, I always find myself looking at the definition and the meanings of words. And so I want to do the same for discernment. Discernment, the quality of being able to grasp and comprehend what is obscure, skill in discerning, an act of perceiving or discerning something. And in regards to wisdom, it says the ability to discern inner qualities and relationships, insight, good sense, judgment, accumulated philosophical or scientific learning, a wise attitude, belief, or course of action, the teachings of the ancient wise men. Guys, that's my presentation for you today. And so I just want to leave you guys with this Proverbs. I think it's a really great Proverbs about wisdom and asking the Lord for wisdom in these matters as we move forward with the wealth transfer. So I hope this dream interpretation blesses you guys. You feel free to pause the video at the end and read through. Thank you. Talk to you later. Bye.